everybody, and welcome back to Beautytainment podcast. I am your host, Claudia. You can find me at Vanidosa Beauty or my new account, Beautypreneur CEO.
There you go. We didn't even remember.
And my host,
Right here. You can catch me at Lee Boy Savage
Lee Boy Savage
on Instagram. And today we got a guest. This is the first time we have a guest.
We have a guest. It's like
it's
we're really
awesome.
legit.
I'm excited. Yeah.
This is our boy Miro right here from Dandyland. Where can they find you at?
Yeah, my name is Miro Hernandez. I can be found on Instagram at Piercer Miro. That's pretty much my handle for all my social media. It's easy.
Piercings, you don't say. I would have never guessed it was piercings.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I find, like I was telling you earlier, what I find about your business that's really cool is that you've been around and you're like a staple in San Antonio. So you mentioned the studio itself has been there for 24 years?
The studio's been there for 20. We've been open for 27 years, and we
Wow.
moved locations about 6.5 years ago to our new location. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And even when you're driving down Fredericksburg, remember when we first moved? So we've only been here for 3 years, and we were driving down Fredericksburg.
And we saw the
I was
murals.
like, oh my God, that's so cute. And it stands out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
color, everything about that building, everything that you've made it is fucking cool.
The murals in the front are badass.
The murals,
Yeah, that's
for
what
sure.
caught
Yeah.
our attention right away.
Everything was done very intentional with that
Right on.
spot. You know,
Yeah.
we wanted to for the exterior. We realized the potential it had, and we wanted to provide a public art space.
Yeah.
Oh, right on.
And being able to do that with murals, you know, it's just been really cool. I have a lot of friends that are in the graffiti community. I have a lot
Nice.
of friends that are artists. So I was able to reach out to homies and just be like, hey, you know, let's make this happen, you know, and it's worked out.
Oh, yeah.
Right on.
And then we actually met you at the first time at your fuck up nights. And we were
Yeah.
just talking about that, man. That fucking event is the fucking best. We loved it right there.
It's really, really cool. You know, it's definitely one of those where you don't know what to expect because the name's so off-putting.
We did not.
Yeah, yeah,
we
it was-
totally did not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely, it's one of those events once you go to, like you definitely want to go back because I don't know, there's something about, and a big part of my life has been understanding the human condition.
Yeah.
And being able to hear these stories of people just being vulnerable and saying, man, this is where I fucked up. Like,
And to be honest, with the first event I went to, I did not know people were going to expose themselves like that. So I felt really comfortable, like, oh my God, these people are now more successful like within their own community. But they were really fucking vulnerable. And
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, oh my God, I feel like I'm their friend because
Well-
they're saying all these things, you know?
Well, everybody likes to talk about the wins, but nobody really likes talking about their losses and where they fucked up at. So that thing was fucking cool, man. Everybody like, okay, we're not alone. We fucked up here, and these people are talking about their fuck ups.
yeah.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, I don't know. It's been a really big part of my over who I am over the past couple of years is just understanding the human condition. And
Yeah.
this event has allowed me to do that, and it's also what it's allowed me to do is just work with community, and then working with community is a really, really big part of who I am as well. You know, so it's really, really cool being able to work with a different aspect of the community.
So it's you and your sister, right?
I call her my hermana.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Irene. We just have this really, really amazing bond and connection.
Right on.
She has a full-time job. She's a lady of many positions.
Uh-huh.
And her current position, she actually runs the regional office for Congressman Greg Casar.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember she was somehow in politics or something, right? Like
Yeah.
she's dug into the community.
Oh, yeah.
And so the fact that she was there, you guys were there, and like your like different aspects of the same thing. That shit was really cool.
She was good too. She commanded the stage pretty good
Yeah.
and told some good jokes and stuff. It was fun, dude.
Yeah.
How did you fall into that? How'd you get involved in that whole thing?
Irene was actually hosting it pre-pandemic, and she had invited me out to speak one night. And I was kind of going into it just not knowing what to expect.
Like,
And
fuck
I was
it.
like, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. And it turns out I was actually the first speaker. So here I am, the very first speaker of this event I've never been to in my life. And I'm just
no
like,
pressure, guy.
no pressure. And like, I lay it out there, and, you know, and it was really, really cool. And then hearing everybody else's stories. And it was just something that stuck with me.
Right on.
And when the pandemic happened, we weren't allowed to do anything like
Right.
that. So coming out of the pandemic, you know, Irene and I we reunited again, and we just, you know, that connection was still there, you know, and we were able to acknowledge, you know, there was a lot that we had in common with each other. And I was, you know, I asked her about fuck up nights, and we just decided, look, let's go ahead and bring it back. It just seemed like the time was right for it, and I think the time was right for it, you know, because I think
Yeah.
coming out of pandemic, there
I was going to
was.
say coming out of the Rona for
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. You know, there was that question, you know, that wanting to be with community was important, but I think a lot for those that really, really took it for what it was, you know, it gave you a lot of time to reflect on yourself and what you wanted out
Sure.
of life.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of what this has been allowing me and us to do is kind of look at this whole situation and be like, what can we do? Like, how can we help our community in different ways? And
That's so cool.
yeah,
Yeah, it was. I had fun. It was a blast.
It was
there, man.
cool.
And I think you've had 3, right? Since, or how many have you had?
yeah, I think
3.
Yeah, we had 3. We have another one coming up on March 7th at Dulces Sueños.
Dulces Sueños, because are you guys? Is that your station where you're gonna be having them all the time at Dulces Sueños, or?
Yeah, as long as long as they'll allow us, it's it's at the heart of what this whole event is about. It's about
Community.
the small business,
Yeah.
the community, and Santos and Janelle.
Yeah.
They're great
They're
people,
also- it's
so
great space.
yeah.
And then our business, your business, and Dulces Sueños, we're all in the same district, the Art
Deco-
Deco district.
Deco
Yeah,
district,
The
yeah.
Deco district, yeah, that's right.
One of the things that we were talking about earlier was how you had like kind of this unconventional step into entrepreneurialism.
And entrepreneurship.
There we go. So how was like your journey into beginning as a piercer? Because I know you mentioned you've been doing it for over 20 years.
23 years.
That's
a
Yeah.
long time.
So back like in 2000s, I think it was kind of hard to really make money as a piercer back then.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think everybody was just kind of like, oh, this is something I do, but nobody really made it a career choice back then.
No,
Yeah.
and that was a constant question from people
For sure.
that were asking me, like, what are you going to do for a career? That's just a job.
They're like, but
That's
what's
just a
your
job."
job,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
What did your parents say when you went into piercing?
At the time, my father and I had an estranged relationship. My mother at that point was just kind of like, she knew I was a different kind of person, and she just kind of accepted it.
Right on.
Whatever I was going to do was what I was going to do. I was on my own path.
Right on.
Yeah. But when I fell into piercing, it was one of those things, like, it was an instant love, and I didn't know what it was, and
Yeah.
I knew it was something that I wanted to do, and I was going to go to any means necessary to make it happen.
Yeah.
And whether at one point I can recall, I probably had like 3 legal jobs, but I was,
Oh, wow.
What was the illegal one though?
I was selling weed. Like,
Doesn't everybody?
I think everybody does at some point or another in their life,
Yeah.
But yeah, I was, I would go work at the studio full time, and then I would leave to go work at the bar, whether I was working security or bartending. And I did this for like 10 years, where there was just this nonstop grind.
And so you were still doing the piercing.
And I was still piercing.
Because that was
yeah.
like
Nice.
that was your love.
Yeah. I was making whatever could happen. Those 10 years, like, I look back on that part of my life, and I am so surprised I am still alive at this point, because
Yeah.
not only did I grind myself to death, because I would go to the studio, I would leave, I would go straight to the bar to go work, and at the bar, you're closing at 2, and you're not getting out till 3, 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And if I was on a sick one that night, like, I was up till the sun was out,
Yeah.
I'd go home, get a couple hours of sleep, and back to the studio. And I did this for years on
That's
end.
crazy.
And I was still managing somewhere in there to sell weed, too. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and it was wild. And like I said, it was one of those things where I kept at it because I knew this is what I wanted to do. And then with the studio itself, it was one of those things when I got hired on there. The studio already had a really great reputation. And it was just one of those things where I just it fell into place. And over the years, I earned the trust of the owner. And I just showed my dedication. And it's one of those rare stories where you hear people where they pay their dues and they're given these opportunities.
It sounds like you paid it for years.
Yeah, that was a long time. Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've been there for 20 years, so
that's
I mean, a lot of people at 10 years, like, they're probably not even at the same job anymore.
Nah, most people are not.
No, especially not as piercers. I feel like most piercers do move around quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is like back in the day, but it seemed like piercers were one of those things that unless and it was a lot of like the girlfriends of the shop owners or like the wives, like 20 years ago. And maybe it was different here because, we're from California. But I felt like the piercers were always somehow attached to the owner or
the owners were
a tattoo
tattoo-
shop.
yeah.
And so the piercers were constantly changing.
Yeah.
So for you to be at that shop like that long, it's a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Like, it's a big deal.
It's been a blessing,
Yeah.
I acknowledge, that it's shaped who I am as a human. It's because, once again, I'm going back to the human condition.
Yeah.
I'm able to work with people hands on, and sometimes we're in these very vulnerable places.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's allowed me to become the human I am. So as much as the shop has given me, like, I've given a lot to that shop, and it's been really, really awesome.
sure.
Yeah.
So you feel like so I imagine, and this is like me just kind of having friends that were piercers or, like getting tattooed and knowing people and kind of being in that circle. But do you feel like the education now is so much easier, or is there like an abundance of bullshit for piercers out there?
I think it's probably the same as you see in the hair industry.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like there is a lot more, the information is a lot more accessible these days, without a doubt. Like,
For sure.
there's forums online. You can go to forums and you can ask piercers, for advice on different things,
Yeah.
It's made it to where, these people that you considered, they were your heroes or your icons, like they become your friends over the years, and you're able to turn to them, for advice on how to run your
Yeah, for
business or
sure.
technique. The Association of Professional Piercers, they've been a really, really big part in the push for education for years on end. That
Yeah.
organization's been around for 20, almost close to 30 years already.
Yeah, and they've managed to monetize it too. Like it's
It-
a big fucking deal now.
It's
Yeah.
a nonprofit,
yeah.
and yeah, the big thing is just getting the education out to the public on what to look for when getting pierced, because
Yeah.
there is a difference between going to somewhere and paying $20 for a piercing and going somewhere else and paying $80-$100 for a piercing.
Yeah.
It's one of those where you get what you pay for.
So what's the difference between those two things? Because you're obviously not going to Claire's when you go to Dandyland, right? To get a piercing.
I think the easiest way to put it is if you look at that number and you break it down into two different parts.
You mean the pricing?
Yeah, look at that pricing and break it down into two different parts. A is going to be the quality of your jewelry.
Yeah.
B is going to be the quality of your piercer. Which one are you getting the better value out of?
I think probably both.
At Claire's, neither.
Well,
right?
I remember when we first met, you said you had all your jewelry custom made, right?
We work with a gold company, and we're able to work with this line that we're able to customize to our liking and our needs.
That's fucking cool, man.
Yeah, and it's really, really cool because, when I first started piercing, if you told somebody a piece of jewelry costs $50, they tell you to go fuck yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nowadays, like we're working with high-end clients that want to spend money. Like they understand the importance of body jewelry because it's, you spend thousands of dollars on stuff we wear on our fingers and around our necks. Like, why not do the same with what we're putting in our body?
Yeah, well, something's embedded in your body. Why not spend the money on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you feel like the industry has developed for you, and how have you changed with it?
That's been the biggest part is trying to.
But it's hard.
Yeah, because we've been around for so long, we're so well established that we weren't on top of some of these trends early on.
Yeah.
We know exactly
Yeah,
what you're talking about. You get comfortable and you're making money. You get comfortable, so you don't what's that? Innovate with the times sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and I think for us, the innovation that we took was in a different route where when we had the opportunity to get into the new studio. It's one of the things that I'm really, really proud of in my life. It's a gorgeous studio. And I don't say that because it's mine. I say it because people that walk in, they're usually just left in awe with how beautiful the space is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to have to take a trip over there and see it because we pass by it daily and the outside of it just like is amazing.
Yeah, no, the innovation for me over the couple of years hasn't really, I think with my business partner and ourselves, like it hasn't ever really been about the money. It's been about providing this space where we can provide this art in a very clean, safe environment.
Yeah, and the vibe. You guys created a whole vibe, I think, around your guys' business.
Yeah, and that's part of what makes our business, at least to me, what makes it really special is the place does have a vibe to it, you know, and that's been where the innovation has come over the years, is like developing the brand of the studio, that way, people know what they associate when they hear that name.
Well, I think that's what you guys created. Instead of it just being a piercing and tattoo shop, you guys created an experience for the clientele. When they go in there, it's a whole
Which
experience.
people don't really do anymore.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. That's what I look for. That's what I fucking love. I love having experiences. Yeah. People will ask me, they're like, "What's your favorite piercing to do?" I was like, "Man, I've been doing this for so long. Like I like all the piercings I do, but the ones that I love the most are the ones where we have these experiences. Like,
Right on.
Yeah, like there's moments where I've had people like the only thing I can do is just sit there and hold space with them and cry with them and give them a hug and let them know like, hey, like.
Is that before or after you pierce them?
This is after, yeah, and sometimes it's been before, I mean, you get people, who've lived their whole lives living in a shell and they're finally doing something for themselves for the first time in their life. Like, it can be really cool, and then you get on the opposite end of the spectrum. Like you get people coming in to complete bucket list items because, they're on their way out,
Oh, man,
like,
yeah.
Probably, you've done well. I'm not a technician when it comes to like the beauty and all that. I'm just behind the scenes, but from her experiences and it sounds like yours, you guys are almost like therapists at the same time. You know what I mean?
I don't like to really. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what a lot of people kind of see it as. For me, I think it's just holding space for people.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people these days we're so busy that we're not able to be present to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And when you're able to work with people in that kind of environment, like you're able to hold space for them, you know?
Yeah, and they're already kind of being vulnerable with you. They're in a vulnerable position because you're putting a hole in them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I imagine they get even more vulnerable with you when it's one on one and the way they talk and everything. Right?
Yeah, you know, and once again, being in that studio for 20 years, like some of these people, like they've become friends. Like I've watched them grow as much as they've watched me grow.
Yeah.
I've watched them have families, you know, and go through divorces, and now
That's crazy, yeah.
now I'm piercing their kids, you know, like
Well, it's a funny story coming in. We were talking about Dandyland, and one of the girls outside heard it, and she's like, "Oh my God, I got pierced there." They came in and told us, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
7 degrees of Dandyland.
Yeah, the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Yeah, no, but and a lot of, you know, and it's funny because in the past, like when I was dating, you know, there were people who would be like, that I was dating, like, man, how do you know everybody? And it's like, man, it's like, you got to remember, I've been piercing for so long. I bartended for so long. I
Yeah.
sold weed for so
There you go.
long. Like, there, you know, like there's a lot of people that I come encounter
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
my
and
life.
San Antonio's kind of like a big city, small town vibe too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
But I think like how when my clients come in, because you know I do the permanent makeup, so when they come in and I see them a year and a half later for a touch up, they're like, "Oh my God, you remember I told you that?" Because I'll ask, you know, well, how's your daughter or how's this going or whatever, and so they're always like, "How do you remember?" But it's like you're saying, it's you're present,
Yeah.
and you're present in their experience. And this is their experience. This is not about me. Like this is your experience, and you lead them through it in a sense.
Yeah. You know, I'll share this with y'all because this is probably like one of the most heartbreaking ones that I've had over the past couple of years.
I'll
And
cry.
I've had a lot of them. But I had this mom and daughter that came in, and you could tell mom was kind of, she looked kind of ill. And, you know, we get back to the room, and they were both getting their nose pierced. And we get to talking, and it turns out like mom's terminally ill, and part of her bucket list is she wants to get her nose pierced, and she wants to have this experience with her daughter as well.
Oh man.
Oh man, it was so gut wrenching at the end. You know, just seeing her crying because she did this finally. You know, but
Yeah.
you know, and her daughter, the tears in their eyes. You know, and I have a picture of this day too because it was just one of those days I'll never forget. I'll always carry it with
right
me.
on.
Yeah.
But a couple of months later, the daughter comes in. You know, so I could check on her piercing, and of course I have to ask, like, you know, how's
Right.
mom? And she just looks at me. She's like, you know, thank you for that day. She's like, mom's since gone, but that was one of the greatest
Oh,
experiences
wow.
I've had in my life. I was like, holy shit, like just gutted.
Yeah, shit,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to cry right now.
Well, it's kind of like, man, it's an honor, no, to be able to be somebody's to be able to create that experience for somebody, right?
Yeah, no, and it took me a long time to realize that, you know, it's being able to share these experiences. It's a blessing, you know, and I
Yeah.
think we grow as a community by being able to share experiences, you know, and we grow as human beings by being able to share these kinds of
And you know,
experiences.
I think unfortunately too, the new people coming into, I don't know if it's any industry, but I know for my industry and probably for yours, they just
It's
don't.
about the money.
It's about the money, but they're not there to make true connections. And it seems like the service is about them
It seems
as
like they
opposed to, you know, like you don't become a service provider anymore.
Seems like they just about the money. I can make this much money. I can make this much, but it's not about their clientele. You know, that's the impression I get from a lot of people these days.
I guess it depends. Like I said, I've got a really big, expansive network of piercers that I know
Yeah.
all across the country. And I know some people that are doing it right and their intentions are right. You know,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
want to be able to create this kind of space for people in there. But that's also, you know, that's the number of that compared to the people who are like, yeah, this is a moneymaker, is far and few between, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, I know some people out there that are doing it for the right reasons, you know.
Oh yeah, me and my friend back in California, a few of us actually, we were going to get pierced, and we did this whole thing. So it was exciting for us, you know, as friends. And so we call her, and she's like, "Oh yeah, you know, whatever you guys want, I'm going to set up an hour and a half, and we'll just do a whole thing." And I was like, "Oh my God, she's so cute to set this time apart." Just for us. She didn't even know how much she was going to make, really, because, you know, like, we didn't
Yeah.
really tell her. We talked about a few things. But she also set up, like, this whole tray to show us a bunch of different jewelry. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Because I had never seen that before back in the day, you know, like, again, 20 years ago when I
Yeah.
started getting piercings or whatever. That wasn't really there. It was kind of like, okay, I have it
This-
for this
this-
15-minute block.
Yep, and this is what you get.
And this is what you get, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a jewelry. This is $10. This is $20. This over here is $35. You know?
Yeah, no. Nowadays, you know, we probably set, you know, for our piercing customers, depending, you know, on what they're getting, we're setting anywhere from like 30 minutes to an hour blocks of time. That way we can sit with you and kind of
That's crazy.
Yeah.
show you your different options. That way you're not stuck with like, this is what I got, you know, like
Yeah.
there's, you know, it's an expression, you know, and being able to find what fits what you want to be able to express with something, you know, it has to, you have to be able to find that right piece
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
So with you guys, like, do you have to do? I know with obviously with tattoos and with what I do in permanent makeup, like we have to do what we call corrections. Do you guys do that as well? Like you have to take out a piercing because it was inserted incorrectly
Oh yeah.
and stuff like that, like and re-pierce it or what?
A lot of it depends, you know. Sometimes we get a lot of people that come in, and this is where there's the lack of education. Where
Yeah.
you know, although there are more and more studios that are kind of set up, you know, we're not the only people in town doing what we're doing anymore. There's other people in town that are doing
Right
it as
on.
well,
Yeah.
which is cool. I'm really really glad that it's catching on. But the people that are doing that, like they're still outnumbered by this other aspect, you know, and a lot of it just comes from non-education, you know, and people not wanting to. This is what I taught, you know, instead of wanting to, you know, instead of wanting to go out and learn more. So we do get a lot of people that come in with piercings that probably shouldn't have been done in the first place to begin with.
See, and I still don't understand. I guess I still don't understand because I've heard of certain piercings that you shouldn't get,
Yeah, there's
but
definitely
they're getting done.
there's certain ones that you shouldn't get for sure that are just terrible ideas. Like one of the really popular ones right now is the snake eyes, like a horizontal tongue piercing.
Yeah,
You know?
I've
I
seen
haven't
that.
seen that. Oh, that
yeah,
sounds
I've seen that a
fucking
few
painful.
times.
Yeah, you know, and when you really, really think about that, like your tongue is two muscles, so you're binding two muscles together now.
That sounds crazy.
And not only that, but like you're putting these balls, like these metal balls on the inside of your teeth, like where you're going to bite down on those things and
Yeah.
potentially chip your teeth, you know? It's like, so you got this, you know, because honestly, like no reputable piercer out there is going to do this piercing. Like,
But I've seen it, so it's
yeah.
like
So
So
people
there's
are,
people that are
Yeah.
doing it.
yeah, so there's people that are doing it, but they're not anybody that I would feel comfortable sending
Yeah.
people
Right.
to, you know?
So do you do the body modifications and all that also?
No, I'm strictly
strictly piercing?
I'm strictly a piercer, and
Okay,
that's
okay.
it. You
body
know,
mods and
What's that alien? What's that guy you follow on Instagram? The alien
The-
guy that has
the-
the balls in his head and like
the Black Alien.
Black
yeah,
Alien
he cutting off
Project.
his fingers. Oh man, that
Yeah.
guy's
He
fucking
stopped
gnarly.
though.
Yeah,
He said 3 weeks ago he stopped.
That shit was crazy.
yeah. To each their own.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
it's
Yeah.
cool, but it's
Yeah.
like fuck, man. I couldn't do a piercing like that. I would fucking
Well, the
a ball
body
in my head and
mods,
stuff.
that's like I feel like that it used to be kind of together with tattoo and stuff, but not like it's whole.
Now it's a
whole
separate thing.
world.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
intense, man. Like the stuff that they talk about and everything's like medical grade.
Yeah.
It's cool seeing that industry, like your industry, kind of moving ahead so much.
It's definitely it's progressing
For sure.
rapidly. You
Yeah.
know, we were talking earlier. You know, it's like you can go anywhere now. Like tattoo shops are like taquerias. They're
Yeah.
everywhere you go. You
They're,
know,
they're on every corner.
yeah,
almost. Yeah,
they're everywhere. But I've been in this business long enough to know the way these cycles work.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we've survived through 2 recessions already as a business. You know, having been in business for 27 years.
That's a
like-
testament of being a good business.
Like this isn't our first rodeo, you know.
Yeah.
As you guys have probably seen in your industry as well. Like
Right.
it's a little slower than it has been in the past.
That's
Yeah.
actually what I was going to ask you is, are you guys feeling a little bit of a crunch right now with the way everything's kind of the economy and inflation and everything?
It's definitely. Numbers are down for sure.
Uh-huh.
You know, our tattoo side seems to be the side that's suffering more than anything
We've
else.
heard that quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, you know, and a lot of that just I don't know. I might say too much at times, but there's a well, there's tattooing for a lot of people has been like a very time honored tradition, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
there's a lot of people that want to gatekeep it,
Yeah.
for certain reasons. And there's 2 sides to every story, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like it's one of those things where it's like it's a free country, let people do whatever the fuck they want, you know. So then you get these people that are opening up studios and they call them apprentice mills, like they don't have tattoo artist owners, they're not piercers, they're not involved in the industry at all,
Uh-huh.
but they have this business. And there's this thing amongst a lot of tattoo artists, like they won't respect people that aren't part of the industry.
Yeah.
So they end up pumping out apprentices left and right, left
Yeah.
and right, left and right. So you're flooded with this whole industry full of people who at one point or another probably wouldn't have been given access to the industry
Yeah.
because it was kept really sacred to a lot of these tattoo artists.
Yeah.
And I feel like I feel like that change has been in the last 4 years, would you say, or longer before that?
It definitely, I would probably say we saw that shift right around that 4 to 5 year mark, you know? Like, yeah.
Like something shifted, and I don't know what it was, but all of a sudden it's like classes online, or you don't need to be an apprentice anymore. And I know that's bugging the shit out of a lot of the old school tattoo
The
people.
apprentice used to have to go through some bullshit to become tattoo artists.
Well, a lot of
man.
them still do,
A
right?
lot, yeah. Well, you know, and that's been a really big debate. You know, I'm in a bunch of like
Yeah,
forums, you know,
yeah.
so I get to see these going on, you know, and there's the old schoolers that are still like, yeah, no, you have to earn your right to do this. You
got
know,
to sweep the floors. You got to
Yeah.
do this, get that, and you got to. I remember back in the day, the tattoo apprentice, they were apprentice for a couple years. It wasn't just like a few months or nothing. They were.
Yeah.
It was a while.
Yeah, you know, and it's the same way with piercers. You know, it's the same way. Like, I haven't ever formally apprenticed. I've taken on people that I've tried to apprentice, but I've never completed one.
Oh,
really?
wow.
Yeah, no, because I'm not going to be that guy that's going to train you to be a piercer in 3-4 months. Like, I want to spend some time with you. That way you can understand, you know, are you the right fit for me as a person to be able to bring into this industry? Because the way that I treat the industry is a lot different. You know, I love piercing.
It's a love for you.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. You know, it's been a big part of my life. It's a passion, and it's something that I want to be sure that if I'm going to bring somebody on, I want to make sure that their heart is in it the same way that I am, and they're able to appreciate the ritual and the culture behind it.
Yeah. And you want to make sure they have the integrity for the business.
Yeah,
That makes a lot of sense.
So how does apprenticeship for a piercer work?
the same way as it would with a tattoo artist. You know, you kind of we're kind of. You're seeing things kind of change. Well, in some piercing studios, like I said,
Sure.
I know this network. I know a lot of studios that are doing things of what I would consider the right way, but they're actually paying their apprentices. But on top of that, the apprentices are doing like, you know, the shop duties, but they're getting paid for it instead of like having to spend 8-10 hours at a shop cleaning, you know, and then going to have to maintain a full-time job.
And that's
you know?
controversial, right?
Yeah.
Whether they get paid or not, too.
Yeah, it's very controversial.
Speaking of that, so at your shop, how many people are under you guys at your shop?
We currently have 6 tattoo artists, and including myself, we have 3 piercers, and then we've got 3 people that help run the front end.
So are you guys on commission base, or do they rent from you guys, or how do you guys work in your studio like that?
We do a percentage still,
percentage, okay.
but we do a rather high percentage. And we also do a lot of things that a lot of people. So one of that's also a big debate is like percentage or booth rent.
Yeah.
You know, we've opted to keep with a percentage, but basically we've given a really high percentage, and with that, we're making sure that they're getting their money's worth out of it. Like,
that's awesome.
We're providing everything for these tattoo artists to do their job, except for like, you know, their machines and their power supplies.
And literally, you just come in and boom.
Yeah, you come in and work. You know. Our piercers are a little different. They're on salary and commission. It's a combination of the two.
Oh, that's cool.
That's different.
You don't see that a lot.
Yeah, no, and that's been part of why, you know, our studio, one of the things I'm really blessed with is that we've had a really great reputation for years on end.
Yeah.
We've been able to attract piercers that want to come work for us.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, you know, and part of developing that over the years is being able to develop a package where they know they're taken care of.
Yeah.
And part of that includes, like, you know, you're going to make at least this amount of money, but on top of that, you can make much more depending on, you know, what these other variables that are thrown in there.
Yeah.
So my piercers, you know, on top of having, you know, this salary, they also get paid vacation, they get paid holidays.
Oh, wait,
like,
401k, the whole
really?
package.
we don't do 401k or insurance
Yeah.
yet. We're that's something we've been working on for years. But like I said,
Wow.
You don't hear about that.
No, you don't.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Part of it, you know, that studio was opened by my business partner, by his family, you know, and
Yeah.
family's been at the really, really big heartbeat of the way that studio is ran, you know, and we try to make sure that everybody that works there, like, not only are they good at their art, but they're good people too.
Yeah, that's
Oh, right on. So how do you feel like? Do you feel like it's been? I mean, not hard to create that culture, but I bet you've definitely had people that came in with. That maybe didn't fit the culture, didn't have the right energy for your studio.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you kind of just go like, okay, we're gonna try this for 3 months, and then if it doesn't work out for you and me, like we're gonna release?
Yeah, we'll generally start off that way. You know, it's just kind of like a probationary period kind of thing. And sometimes, like, some people manage to skip, you know, they make it through that probationary period, you know, and then you're faced, as a business owner, you're faced with this decision. It's like,
Yeah.
I had this person who's a really, you know, who's bringing in some numbers for the studio,
Mm-hmm.
but their attitude or their egos bringing down the morale
Oh,
of the
yeah.
studio. You
It's
know?
like a cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the end, you know, we've been around long enough to know what we want to maintain in our studio, and it's easier
Right
just
on.
to cut it off and take that loss and save the morale of the studio than make more money.
Yeah, the money's like we always talk about all the time. It's not the money's not always the most important thing.
No, not at all.
You got to create the culture and have a vibe, and the wrong person there completely kill
Dude, and
that.
your sanity, man. Like your
Yeah.
energy. You got to protect your energy.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
the wrong person, that's it.
Yeah, well, you know, and that's always that's what the studio has been for me over the years. It's been my it's a sanctuary for me. You know,
Yeah.
it's where I go when everything else is chaotic in my life. Like
That's your safe space.
that's where I go.
Yeah,
you know?
like I'm going to go to the studio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's my respite. That's where I go. That place has given me so much love over the years, you know?
Yeah.
So being able to maintain that vibe and energy is very, very important because
Yeah.
I'm not the only person that feels that way in that space.
Yeah.
That's awesome that
Yeah.
you've created a place like that. Because I feel like it's now what's coming out. And I feel like, again, because certain things have shifted in my industry and your industry where there's a lot of people who don't respect the art that are kind of just getting pushed out. And at the same time, like, I feel like the industry is doing them a disservice. And the people that are doing this are doing them a disservice because it should be a culture thing and it should be a
Yeah.
vibe thing. And everybody who comes through your space or into your space should have that vibe. And it's like, it's kind of sad that it's getting to that point, maybe because of the YouTubes and the TikToks and all this stuff.
Social
you know?
media definitely has
And
a big
social
effect
media,
on it.
yeah. So, like, how do you feel that you've maintained that energy over time? Is it by not allowing certain people in, or by giving everybody a chance and then but getting rid of them really quickly? Like, how do you maintain that culture? Because that's hard.
We definitely, you know, we go through a screening process. Usually a lot of the times, you know, if an artist is coming in, like it's somebody that we either know personally or somebody in our studio has vouched for.
Oh, right on.
You know, and with piercers, it's, you know, the way the studio is, I run the piercing site. Like that's my
That's
baby.
your That's your jam.
baby.
That's
That's your
my baby. And I've been able to, you know, I've been able to keep my eye on piercers over the years, you know, and when, you know, if they're announcing like, you know, I'm moving to this area and I'm looking for work, I'm able to kind of reach out to them, you know, or I've had in the past where I was the only piercer and I had guest piercers just coming in left and right, you know, we're doing kind of like an audition to see like, do you like the studio? Do you like this city? Is this somewhere you want to be kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so over the years, we were able to bring other piercers in from out of state to come work with us, you know, just because it was that important for us
That's
to be
cool.
able to maintain not only the quality, but also like the quality of people that we're working with.
One of the things that I think like that I personally, I guess, struggle with is like you have somebody comes in with their art, but if you see that things are being done a way that you wouldn't necessarily do you go right into re-educating them yourself as like the master artist, or do you kind of say like, hey, you need to you can't be here because you're not at the quality of work that I want you to be at?
So I've rarely ran into that. You know, I have had certain instances where I've had piercers like that. And it was just kind of a simple like things aren't working out.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
And it's kind of, you know, I take on my piercers. You know, right now I have these two young girls under me. They're really fabulous. Like they're really, really great at what they do. They have a love for it, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've accepted my role as being like, you know, I'm mentoring them in a different way now, where I'm actually, you know, there's some piercings they didn't know how to do, and we're learning how to do those. One of my piercers, you know, at one point she had a confidence kick, you know, and she wanted to go ahead and like, she's like, can you take me off the schedule for these? I don't want to do these kinds of piercings, but I want to bring some in for practice. Like, will you watch me?
Yeah,
Will you
yeah.
help correct me? So I do definitely, we do go into that sometimes. You know, we do a lot of education, and that's a big part of, you know, what's kept us going for years on, is that we've always kept up with the education.
When it comes to the education part with your tattoo artists and your piercers, do you also teach them like the business aspect of it, or is it just strictly the art form?
So most of the tattoo artists, well, the tattoo artists that we have, you know, they've been around the industry for a bit already.
Right on.
Some of them either gone off and ran their own business, and they've come back, or
Okay.
they've left and come back at some point or another.
Yeah.
And they just have no desire to run a business.
There's
you
a
know?
lot of people like that. They're awesome technicians, but the business part doesn't like.
It's not
it's
their
not for them.
passion.
It's not for them. You know?
Yeah, you know, and I'm at a point right now where it's weird because I've held on to the reins of running my piercing side for so
Yeah.
long. I'm finally at a point where I'm teaching my girls how to like do these things that I've always held on to.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is it's come with me accepting my role, knowing that I need to pass this information along. Like I can't hold on to it.
It sounds like you're at the point where you're stepping away from being the technician so much and going more into the business side a little bit.
Yeah, kind of. I don't know if I could ever step away from being on the technician side.
Yeah.
Though,
Yeah. See, I'm just like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just there's something, it was weird when the pandemic hit and we were forced to close. We were closed for 3 months.
Oh, they had us closed in California for 11 months.
Yeah, we were closed for 3 months, and it was weird. I went through, and it took me a while to recognize what it was. But for the first time in my life, I had experienced and really knew what depression and anxiety was.
Yeah.
And for me, it was the fact that this thing that I had done up to that point, almost daily, was taken from me, and I didn't have that human interaction.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to do this thing that I love, and it was really, really wild being like, this is how much of an impact this thing has on my life. Like,
Isn't it crazy?
It put me through a depression and anxiety when it's usually like my depression and anxiety is cured through what I do. Like that's what I go there because that's my happy place.
Well, I think a lot of people that do have depression, this is not like, but I think it's a lack of purpose. When you have purpose, it's kind of, you don't have the time or the time to sit there and like be depressed. You know what I mean? So it kind of took your purpose away during COVID a little bit.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And then that's funny. I'm one of those kind of people. I'm far out there in a lot of my ideas. I obviously do a lot of fucking psychedelics.
Okay.
Yeah.
I obviously do a lot of psychedelics.
Yeah. Did you microdose this morning?
Oh no, don't. I don't do the micros. Like, give me the
Take the full on.
Yeah,
take the full on.
let me kill my ego over and over again.
Right
let
on.
me have those kinds of experiences.
That's funny. Actually, was a couple years ago, was it like a year ago? I actually took a little bit of shrooms, and I hadn't done it for years, man, and I had a bad fucking trip.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and I should have just, like, went with it, but I was fighting it, and it made it even worse.
Yeah, but, I can't remember where I heard it or read it, but, like, there's really no such thing as a bad trip. Like,
if you let go,
the bad trip is just, like, the truths that need to be told to you,
Yeah, that's how I was. Like, the truth was right there. I just didn't want to accept it, so I was fighting it, and it just made it a bad experience.
Yeah, no. Like I said, give me the full-on dose. Let me fucking talk to my ancestors. Like, let me leave this realm for a bit.
Have you ever done the ayahuasca?
I haven't done ayahuasca. I definitely have. I've had some DMT. I actually had some really crazy experiences on DMT too.
Really?
Yeah, no, but in a lot of the more profound experiences I've had, it's been one of those things where like it's reinforced like my position on this planet. Like for a longest time, like I've known what my purpose is. Like I know why I'm here. And over the years, it's just been more of the understanding of the why.
Okay.
Yeah. And then a lot of this has allowed me to continue to just understand, like, like you have a purpose on this planet, like, and this is what you're supposed to be doing. Just stay with it.
Seems like everybody on DMT and ayahuasca have those like mind altering and like just life shifting experiences. You know what I mean? Sounds scary as shit though, but it sounds like it's fucking. It changes your life.
It is. I think one of the first times I ever had one of those experiences was on salvia, like in my early 20s or like my mid 20s. And I legit like saw complete dissolution of self. Like it was the first time I had an ego death.
Oh man,
like,
that's crazy. That's scary.
I existed, but I did not exist in this physical realm. I was just an observer from the outside. Like it was so wild.
Oh man, I'm such like a control freak. I cannot do it. So what I've been doing right around like in the past 6 months is reading other people's experiences because I'm so like I get scared of not being in control. I refuse.
Yeah, I think one time I got her stoned and she freaked out. I don't get stoned to do any of that stuff either. But every once in a while I get brave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When it's offered, I'm like, oh fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah, I can't do that. I wish I had those experiences, but I think I'm living vicariously through people. So I read about them.
Yeah.
But see, one of the big things that one of the things that's taught me over the years is just to let go.
Oh, that's so hard.
But it's important. Like I've done a lot of different things over the years to experience this. I used to participate in body suspension.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and a big part of that is like, the first time you ever do it, like, is letting go and getting your feet, getting your body.
It's that first step, right?
So did you have the rings and stuff?
No, we just pierced them and put some hooks in them, that kind of thing. Yeah, but it was one of those things, just like letting go.
Yeah, it's being vulnerable and like being able to let go. But
yeah, and then it turned into this. just another one of those profound experiences that I've had in my life. Like I've been blessed to have a lot of really, really amazing things happen in my life.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that I've also had this ability to be present.
See,
Yeah.
and I think that's really hard for people.
Yeah, especially in
Yeah.
this day and age.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. So do you practice like meditation, or how do you stay present? I think we're him and I kind of opposites, where like I'm so much in the future that I can't be in the present. And a lot of the times, like we talk about the past and stuff,
Yeah.
and it's hard for you to be in the present. How do you stay present?
I know that there's nothing that I can do at this point in my life that'll change the past.
Yeah.
That's happened. The only thing that I can do from that is I can grow from those experiences.
Yeah.
The future, I don't like to plan for that because it's not guaranteed.
That's
Yeah.
true.
I had a really, really dear friend who was murdered in a mass shooting a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
And that just really drove home that fact, like, like our life is very, very
Wow.
fragile
Yeah.
and our time here is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sorry to hear that, man.
Oh, no, it's all good. It's one of those things where that was a blessing in itself.
Yeah, yeah.
She taught me a lot about who I was as a human, and being able to grow from that experience, not only from having her in my life, but also not having her here in this realm. It's a blessing as well, So I try to look at everything with an understanding that I need to be here and now,
Yeah.
and that's going to be the most important part, is being able to be present and experience the moments. Like, I want to see the clouds. I want to see the sunsets,
Yeah.
I want to be paying more attention to that. I think there's this thing I heard a long time ago, and it's always stuck with me, It's like, I'm pointing at the moon and you're looking at my finger.
Oh,
It's-
yeah.
I think that's probably one of the hardest things, just to be present and just, have gratitude for what's in front of you at the moment,
Yeah.
I think for everybody that's really hard. For me, it's hard. I know it's hard for you. I think it takes practice, and you have to be conscious of it at the moment,
Yeah, well, I mean, you think about it, like the fact that we're here on this earth in this moment itself is a fucking miracle.
On a spinning
yeah.
fucking ball
Yeah.
that's going.
Yeah, and the fact that we're able to wake up every day and share these moments together.
Yeah.
Like this is all part of like this miracle of life and these experiences that we share, and this is how we grow, and this is how we become one. As I think we're a lot more connected than people like to take for granted.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I've been getting into the egg theory. I don't know if you've
No.
read about it, where we're all one, right? So we're all like the same soul essentially, but the same soul is having different experiences in the human body, but ultimately we are God within ourselves. It's like this whole thing. You have to read it. I mean,
Yeah.
I started kind of reading about it about a year ago, and just in the past months, like it's a trip.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things that stuck with me a while back too. When I heard it, it was something where it was said that we're not human beings having spiritual experiences. We're spiritual beings having
a human experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was one of those things that stuck with me. And I just want to experience everything that I can in life. That way, if I want to have an opinion on something, like if I want to tell you, oh, this fucking thing sucks, like, well, who are you to say that? Well, let me tell you, like, this is what I experienced personally through that. So yeah, I want to be able to have that experience, and being able to carry all these different experiences in life has also allowed me to expand on my growth as a human, but also the growth as a business. My business has grown because my partner and myself, we've grown as humans.
I think your attitude and everything probably helps too with the ebbs and flows of business, because you're so relaxed and you're so like present that you're not worried so much about like what's gonna happen a week from now, a year from now. So you're just kind of present, and it allows you to ride those ebbs and flows pretty good,
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to worry about that stuff as a business owner.
Well, you have to worry,
Yeah,
but
so how do you juggle those? Like how do you be as a person? You're so present, but also too like maybe we need to talk about marketing for the next 6 months, or like are we staying here for the next year, or those kinds of conversations you need to have about business.
Those conversations happen. They're gonna happen.
Yeah, they have to happen.
They have to happen.
Yeah.
You know, so those are things that are out of my control.
Yeah.
You know, and that's basically how I approach everything. You know, if it's out of my control, like it's the universe. It's gonna happen. If it does, if it doesn't, oh well.
But when you do have those conversations,
cool.
do you do mushrooms?
Sometimes.
Those got to be the best fucking conversations, hands down, dude.
No, I usually, like I said, when I do those, I'm usually taking just really large doses because I want to fuck
All the
around.
way
I want to fuck around and find out. Like, you know, like
like literally, that's like your life. You want to fuck around and find out.
That's the best way to live, though,
That's
man.
fucking cool.
Honestly, that's one of my, like, I'm one of my fears is when I die, I don't want to have regrets that I didn't do something because I was scared or, like, I just didn't want to put myself out there to do it. So, like the way your philosophy that you're going by is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I admire it.
Yeah, no, and like I said, and just a big part of that has been like what the studio has been able to give me. It's allowed me this personal growth. You know, I'm blessed and fortunate. I get to wake up. I get to go to this job that I love to be at. You know, a lot of people don't get that.
No, the majority of people don't.
Yeah, they fucking hate their jobs.
Yeah.
You know, or they're working like these mundane jobs where they're just not
So
happy.
crushing.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because that was a decision I was faced with. You know, out of college, like I moved from a small town, went to college, had like the corporate job, and I was just faced with that decision. It's like, do I want the stability? Do I want the 401k? Do I want the insurance? But do I want to be unhappy?
Yeah.
Or is there more out there for me? And that's kind of where piercing came in, and I realized like that decision was, do I sacrifice my happiness for money, or do I keep my happiness and live the life that I want to live?
Right on.
Yeah.
So what in piercing is what kind of fills your cup? Like it's the human interaction. I'm sure has some of it. Is that what kind of draws you to the art that you like so much?
I think there's this power of connection that we have, you know, and a lot of people really, really underestimate that, you know. And I think that's going to be the most important part for me is being able to share space with somebody, being able to share energy, you know, and how I choose to share that with somebody is on me.
Yeah.
You know, I can block myself off and I can not give somebody this experience, but part of this experience that I create comes because from what I do, it comes from my heart, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fucking cool.
I know. I wish I was that cool.
Yeah.
I worry about like fucking 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Like I stay awake thinking about 5-10 years.
No.
It's so hard for me to like go. That's so cool that you were able to do that and like live in the moment, but at the same time, live in the future. Like
well,
it's
it
crazy.
takes as much as you being vulnerable as much as your client being vulnerable in that situation. I think, and I think that's like fucking hard to do, but it's admirable to be able to do that, you know?
Yeah, no, and then that's part of what that studio is. Like I said, it's a sanctuary. It's a safe space. You know, tattoo shops and piercing shops have always been the safe havens for the fucking weirdos, you know?
That's true.
Yeah.
You know, back, you know, like we were talking earlier when it was for like a certain element, you know, that's who it was. It was the fucking weirdos. It was the outcasts.
It was. It used to
Yeah.
be the bikers, right?
Yeah.
And then it turned into the weirdos. And now it's mainstream.
It's for everybody,
Yeah.
you know, but and this is where like my off the chart thing goes, you know, but I think a lot of, you know, for me, and part of the reason that I do a lot of what I do is because I understand like it's been a huge part of human tradition throughout time.
Yeah, it really has.
You know, it's not something new. It's something that's been around forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and there's, you know, for some people, you know, think about like the ancient, like the bloodlettings, like there was something about releasing blood and, you know, releasing energy, you know, and that kind of thing. And that's always kind of where my role has been. It's like, just like, you know, we're helping whether you want to release some energy or whether you need to take some on, like, I'm going to help you out with that, you know?
Yeah, and I definitely think like there's different clients, right? With different for you, I imagine, because I know the people that tell me like, oh man, I've had so much anxiety, I'm gonna go get a piercing or a tattoo, and then there's other people like me. I'm sure you enjoy it, but I don't enjoy the process of getting pierced.
Yeah.
But I like the way it looks. It's so cute.
Yeah.
You know? So like, is that the two elements that you mostly see?
Yeah. Well, I mean, every client wants their own experience out of it.
Yeah.
You know, whether somebody just wants to come in and get something because it's cute, cool. Whether somebody's coming in because they're recently divorced and their husband didn't want them to do it.
They finally did
And
it.
they want to
Fuck
get
yeah,
crazy.
let's go ahead and do it, you know? But the level of it just depends on the customer and where they're at in their life, you know? Like, I'm a very, very firm believer that we're all put in our paths for a reason, for one reason or another, you know?
Yeah.
And also part of being present is being able to understand, like, why are these people put in our lives?
Just to be able to reflect on it and take the time, right?
Yeah. I think we can take a little bit and learn a lot of experiences from everybody as long as we're being able to be present.
Yeah.
And that's a really, really big, important part of, what I do is being able to be present, because I like to take a little bit that I can learn from people, and carry that forth, like with different interactions. Said some people just want to come in and get a piercing. Some people want to come in and like they want this to be part of who they are, Some people are coming in because they had a bad fucking day and they just want to feel something different for once in their
That's
life.
crazy, yeah.
I think some people like pain too. So
They do.
Yeah. I'm not a pain person or blood person, so that shit scares the shit out of me.
Do you get like, I had my friend, well, he's passed now, but he was like the piercer in our area back in California. And he would tell me he would get like these people. I remember he told me like a case where there was this gentleman who got the Prince.
Is that
Prince Albert?
Prince Albert.
The dick?
Yeah. That's the dick. And so I remember he was saying like, man, sometimes you get these weirdos. And so this gentleman, he would come in, he pierced them and then it fell off. So he pierced them again. And then 2 weeks later or whatever it was, he needed to change of jewelry. And then a week later, he wanted to get a check to make sure. And then he wanted to hit, and it was like this until he was like, dude, like.
He just wanted to
like,
show off
that's
his
it.
goods.
Yeah. And, he knew my friend was gay. So I think that kind of added to the aspect of why he came in. But my friend was totally professional. Like, he was super professional about it, but I was like, dude, he finally had to tell him like, hey, you got to stop coming in here.
Yeah, well, and that's like when I first started, one of the big communities that I worked with was like the BDSM kink community, like because that was part of like that culture at the time, and I learned a lot about boundaries during that time. I got a really, really, really rough education in it.
How rough?
I came from I came here, I came here from a small town, went to college. There was this whole world that I hadn't really known about or experienced, and here I am, year or two out of college, when I'm piercing, and all this is new to me. Like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Like, including the people? Like the type of people?
Yeah, the type of people, but not only that, but like understanding boundaries,
Yeah.
You'd get the BDSM kink community people coming in, and having to explain to them like, no, I'm not part of your role playing.
Like, no, don't touch me.
Like, like we're here for a piercing. Like, I'm not here to be part of any of this. Like, having to set those boundaries clear on.
Did you have people that were kind of not wanted to include you, but it was part of their thing? What would you call it? Part of their act?
The
like
role playing?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've definitely, like I said, I've had to set those boundaries, like where you have them come in and it's like the husband, he's like, she wants to get this piercing. Cool. I need to hear it from her. You know?
Okay.
But early on, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand what that dynamic was, until I finally caught on. And now I've gotten to a point, where I can read a lot of people. I know what's going on, but back then I had no idea,
The husband's over there in the corner being a weirdo and
stuff
like that.
just stuff like that, So just having to be able to set those boundaries and learning that early on was a really rough thing to go through. Yeah.
What's the craziest piercing you've ever done?
I don't do anything crazy anymore.
No?
Like I said, if it's not going to work, I'm not going to do it. I used to always joke the only thing that got crazier were the customers.
That's true.
And I think, you probably also realize that, coming out of COVID, like there was the customer mentality changed after COVID. Like,
everything changed. The market, everything. It seemed like everything flipped upside down. It's weird.
Yeah, and I don't know what it was. Like, people just got way more demanding about things.
Super demanding.
Yeah, I want it. I want it now. I need it. I need it
like
this way. Yeah, where in the past, you didn't really experience that. Like the last place 10 years ago, the last place you'd expect a Karen to be was a tattoo shop, because a tattoo shop's going to tell you to fuck off.
Right? I can't imagine a Karen in a tattoo shop.
Yeah. And it's funny because I still carry some of that old mentality with me. Like, I just don't, like, if someone rubs me, like, if someone says something is out of step or out of line, like, I am the first to walk around the counter and open the door and say, can you please leave?
Yeah. You have to. You have to for your own sanity.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a Karen, though. Could you imagine? Let me talk to your manager and just, like, being a Karen in there? Could you,
Tattoo
I would pay to see that shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, imagine the looks when they look at you and you're this heavily tattooed Pierce Brown person, you know, like, and they want to talk to the manager.
They're like,
yeah,
no, you're manager.
I'm the manager.
You know, there's this thing that I've kind of seen that's kind of a controversy, like in your industry, where I guess it's a controversy. Maybe I'm just kind of new to seeing this. I never really knew any tattoo artists that were also piercers. And it seems like here, or maybe not here, maybe I just, I'm fucking old and I'm just starting to see it. But is that a thing now where tattoos and piercers, and there's piercers that are tattoos, and it's kind of the same thing?
You don't see it quite as much. It used to be really prevalent.
Yeah.
And sometimes you still see it in studios where they don't have a piercer and like there's people coming and asking for a piercing, so they'll make the apprentice do them, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know? But I don't know. You don't see a lot of it quite as much these days as we used to. And I don't know. I'm trying to think.
I feel like I went to a couple of shops, because I'm still kind of trying to get acclimated with who does what in here. And I remember I was, the first tattoo shop that we went to, they were kind of like, oh yeah, so-and-so is here to pierce today, but he's doing a tattoo. And I personally had never seen that before.
Yeah.
But I think it's also, I got stuck to this, you know how it is when you get tattooed. I got stuck with the same person. They were my friends, so they tattooed me.
Yeah.
So
we used to see a lot of it, you know, when I first started. You don't see quite as much anymore. And a lot of it is because, like, if you're going to focus on being the best at your craft.
Yeah.
Do you want to focus on multiple things at once, or do you just want to focus on one? You know, and generally what I found is that, and this is just an overgeneralization because it's not the case for everyone, but for those that do both, what I find is that there's a lot more emphasis placed on tattooing, and piercing is just an afterthought. Whereas when you're focusing on just tattooing, you're just focusing on tattooing. And you're not having to do anything. You're not having to stop your tattoo because there's somebody wanting a belly button piercing. You know,
right.
And vice versa. You know, when you're piercing, it's one of those things a lot of people kind of look at and they're like, that's easy. Anybody can kind of do it. You know, and sure, you know, and I've always said there's like a rule of thirds when it comes to piercers. Like the first third is like anybody can do it. Like anybody can grab a needle and put it through somebody. That's just one of those things that happens.
Right.
The second third is the education, the knowledge, that kind of stuff. So that's going to make a difference between another piercer. And then the last third is just something that comes with time. Like it's your customer service, it's your bedside manner, it's how your interactions happen.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and I can guarantee you, like, the way that I pierce, the way that I handle my interactions are going to be completely different than anybody else's. But that's also very, very intentional because I've learned over time that it's not about putting this hole in somebody and getting them out the door.
Right.
It's about having this space for them to be able to say, here, let's go ahead and share space together.
It's that experience, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm sure your experience was a lot different because if you guys don't know, Miro is like the best dressed guy in San Antonio. So I could imagine going in.
He really is.
I could imagine going in and getting pierced by this guy all spiffied out, like in a suit and everything. I'd be like, fuck, man,
In
this
the
is.
tie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a whole experience in itself right there.
It's you know, it's communicating. You know, it goes back to communication. You know, communication is one of the most important aspects in our lives. You know, we do it whether verbally, non-verbally. We're communicating all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and how I choose to dress is just an expression of who I am as an individual. You know. I want to be the loudest person in the room without having to say a word.
Oh,
you know?
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
You make an impression. I don't think you could walk in a room and not be noticed or like have an impression set on somebody. Even if they don't talk to you or anything, that impression is still there. Just in your overall persona and the way you dress, it's I remember
The energy.
Yeah, the energy, everything.
Yeah, it was funny because years ago, when I was drinking, I don't drink anymore, but I went to a bar and I was just sitting there, I was having a drink, and this guy comes up to me, he's like, I don't want to sound gay or anything. And I was like, first off, bro, I was like, this is a horrible way to start this interaction.
Let's start all over.
Yeah. I was like, you don't need to preface anything you're about to say by that. But let's go ahead and talk.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, man, he goes, I want to tell you, man. It's like you're dressed sharp as fuck, man.
Yeah,
He's like,
yeah.
I don't see that anymore. And I was like, cool. I was like, let's go ahead. let's go ahead and sit down. Let's share a drink. And we just started chit-chatting, and he finally understood, like, why it was terrible to start off a conversation with asking somebody, like, you know, like, I don't mean to sound gay or anything like that.
And you know, like you mentioned you came from like the corporate world and stuff. How did you even fall into piercing and then fall into dressing how you dress and then getting into the industry when you came from like probably not knowing a lot of the people that you know now?
That's a big transition.
Right? That's a big transition, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, the corporate world was very short-lived. Like,
Okay.
It was one of those things where it was probably not even close to a year before I realized, like,
It wasn't for you.
You're like, no.
that world was not for me. That life was not for me. And at the time, I already had some tattoos and piercings, and I had some friends that had a studio, and they, you know, I quit my job there, and they taught me at the time, you know, I guess I went through a very terrible apprenticeship.
You were apprentice.
Yeah, I was basically like, we'll show you, and this is what you do, and that's basically what it was. So I spent the next couple of years after that, like, retraining, learning a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And the dressing kind of thing, which just came out of nowhere. Like, I just one day, and I think part of it, I had a partner that I was with at the time, and I just did it to spite her. Like, I just want, yeah. I remember one day I told her, I was like, I just want to start dressing up for work, and I just want to wear a bow tie. Like, I don't know
Right
why.
on.
Yeah.
You know, and there was something about a bow tie that was just something to me. Like, I don't know. You don't see a lot of people rocking them. You
No,
know?
You do not.
Not at all.
Not,
Yeah.
especially not at a piercing shop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You know, and that was part of it. Is that, you know, I wanted to bring some professionalism to what I was doing. You
Right
know,
on.
I wanted the people to know that I really, really cared about what I did.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's how I chose to do it, was by dressing up. You know, I make it a point, like, I rarely wear T-shirts to work. I will always wear a button up, you know, and if I'm not wearing a button up or if I'm not dressed up, like, I will never, it's rare that I ever show up in a T-shirt to work. Yeah, and like I said, it's a big form of communication, but I think for me, it's also, I've always elevated to, like, it's just my personal expression, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people are afraid to be true to themselves and who they really are.
No, that takes some confidence for sure. Just to stand out in the crowd like that, that's confidence right there, man. That's all that is.
Yeah, and I don't know where the confidence came from. You know,
Yeah.
like, it was just something that came naturally over the years. It was just one of those things where, you know, I was definitely that shy kid, you know, back in the
Wow.
day, you know, and it came out of nowhere. I think a lot of it came, you know, I remember when I was in college, I was doing pre-med and biology.
What?
Yeah, and my advisor at the time, she pulled me aside one day and she's like, I want to talk to you about something. I was like, oh, fuck, like, she's going to kick me from this class because I'm sucking. She's like, I want you to talk to my friend over here in this department. She's like, I noticed that there's something really special about the way you're able to connect and talk with people.
Wow.
So she sent me to the speech communications department. I heard speech communication. I was like, fuck, like speaking? Like, what the hell? Like, I'd never done this in my life. But I learned that speech communications was more than just that. It was understanding how we communicate as humans, you know. And it was just one of those things, like I said, I've always enjoyed the human condition and wanting to learn more about what drives us and what makes us who we are. And I understand that a lot of it is our experiences and our shared experiences.
Yeah, for sure.
I see that, you know, going back to the apprenticeship, there's a lot of the old school tattooers and piercers and people in the community that kind of say that the way you talk to your client and develop that customer service and, you know, like the whole being present, that has not been learned with the people, with a lot of the new apprentices now, because they just want to like get in and start doing stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And well, a lot of it was that going back, I think there were the tattoo industry was based on culture and tradition.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It was, you know, and losing that, you start losing a little sense of, you know, what made this so special back in the time.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, it became more of a business than a tradition, I
Yeah.
think, and it waters down the tradition. And that's in anything, though, I think, right?
Yeah, you know, but I think, you know, with tattoo artists, it was one of those things. A lot of those people did have to go through some shit to get their apprenticeships, you know,
Yeah.
like, and you still hear horror stories of people going through these like apprenticeships that, you know, are just wild.
It's like a hazing process.
Sometimes it can be,
Yeah.
you know, or those are the stories I've heard in the past, you know. But, you know, nowadays, like the big debate is like paid or unpaid apprenticeships, you know. And there's two sides to it. Like, should somebody be paid for the work that they're putting in? Absolutely, because your time is valuable. Like, you should be paid for that.
Yeah.
But then the other part to it is like, I'm teaching you a career.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like I'm teaching you
Yeah.
a hands-on career. It's something that you're going to be able to take with you as a trade and you're going to make a living off of. And if you're really good at it, you can make a really, really good living off it and have a great life.
And if somebody
Yeah.
really wants to do it, they'll be willing to pay the dues that it takes to
That's
get into that industry, you know?
that's kind well, and that's where the sad part is, you know, because part of that hazing, part of that process over the years, you know, and you guys have probably heard that story where like there were women, you know, and we're starting to see a lot more representation for women. I'm
Yeah,
very
yeah.
very happy for it. But you know, back in the days, like the way that women got in the industry was like they had to give sexual favors to some
Yep.
dude in order to get their foot in the door, you know. And you don't hear that a lot anymore, you know. But that was definitely the way it started years ago, you know.
Yeah, well, I don't know. From what I've seen, I'm not big in the piercing industry, but I see a lot of women piercers. There's
But
tons of
back
them.
in the day, there wasn't like.
It's changed a
Too
lot.
many.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I wasn't really like in that world, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah,
didn't see
no,
it too much.
it's been a very male-dominated industry for years on end, you know,
Okay.
and that ship's finally changed, and it's awesome. I enjoy it. You know, we're at a point that's actually really really weird for us because we're at a point where we have as many females as we do males working in our studio. It's the first time we've ever had that
Oh, right
dynamic in
on.
our studio. But I also understand like there's an importance to having this feminine energy in our studio, and it makes it
Yeah.
a really
Yeah.
really great place, you know, compared to what it was in the past when it was just another bunch of dudes like making dick and fart jokes all
Yeah,
day
yeah,
long.
Yeah,
yeah.
and then you would kind of walk in as a woman, and everybody's kind of staring at
Yeah.
you like, "What are you doing here?" type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, being able to change that kind of, you know, have that that perception change, you know, where these women can walk in and see like this
Feel
place-
comfortable,
it's
right?
comfortable,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
safe, you know. So that's been really really cool, changing the dynamic over the years.
Do you feel like women? I feel like men and women tattoo differently. Do you feel like women and men pierce differently in terms of like the quickness or the pressure or anything like that?
No, I think the only thing that's going to be different, really, in anything is going to be the overall experience and
Yeah.
and the energy. That's that's going to be the biggest part for sure.
Seems like there's a lot of women that are stepping up in the tattoo industry, man. There's some badass
Oh,
artists
yeah.
out there
Oh, yeah.
that are coming
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, no, there's a
Yeah.
lot of them
Same.
out there that are killing it. There's
Yeah,
a lot
they're
of them,
fucking-
there's a lot of them here locally that are killing
Yeah,
it.
we've
you
seen
know,
some.
like,
They're-
yeah.
We've seen quite a few, man.
Yeah.
They're stepping up in the tattoo industry for sure, big
And now
time.
like women only tattoo shops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's cool to see.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, and a lot of it just goes back to, you know, the cultures and the traditions changing. Like, there are definitely parts of the tattoo and piercing industry that just need to fucking die.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like a lot of, you know, you think about like the early tattoo industry, it was very, very deep rooted in like racism, misogyny, you know. And, you know, it's changed a lot. They're no longer, you know, a lot of the places are no longer like that anymore.
Yeah.
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 You know, so you're seeing that change, and that's always really, really cool seeing that those aspects die and change. But you know, like the sacredness of what we do, like that's one of those aspects
That's
that a lot
definitely. Yeah.
that's one of the aspects that a lot of people are losing. You know,
Have you ever done like a I don't want to say like ritualistic piercing, but like something like real traditional, like somebody's culture, and you like just implement like a whole like ritual around it?
I've never done that, but then again, I approach every piercing as ritual.
Okay, okay.
You know, when I do what I do, it's a love, it's a passion. Like I said, I have intent. I understand my purpose. For me, a lot of it is honoring my ancestors. You know, my
Yeah, yeah.
ancestors. This is what they practiced. This is what they did. You
That's
know,
so
and,
cool.
and this is the way that I keep in touch with who I am and my cultural identity.
That's cool.
So where do you see like yourself in the shop 5-10 years down the road? Do you have a roadmap for that, or you just kind of like, I'm gonna do what I love to do until something changes?
Yeah, that's kind of that's
Yeah.
kind of the way we've always kind of guided it. You know, it's ever changing. You know, we understand that like there are so many factors that can go into changing. You know,
Sure.
our building for one day could just be gone completely. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and there goes a 5 to 10 year kind of plan. You know,
That's true.
you know.
And you guys don't have any plans for expansion or anything, or
No, not
No,
at all.
just you guys-
like I said, we don't need any more.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You know, that on top of, you know, we've gotten so much out of that place, but to be able to grow and experience and share this together with everybody and ourselves, money can't buy that.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing. Money.
Yeah.
It's not everything, like we always preach, but
Yeah, I mean, you need it, you know, and that's part of what we've been
Yeah.
able to try to create this space where everybody can live comfortably,
yeah,
you know.
with no drama, no cattiness, or none of that shit going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, but also have a life outside of you. Because back, you know, like the days of grinding are fucking done. Like I'm tired of
Yeah, well, you've been doing
Yeah.
it so long.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I'm tired of being tired, you know? Like I just I'm at a point where I've accepted my role. It's time for me to kind of slow down just a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, and push out some more of this knowledge and information. But I need to focus a lot of my energy in other aspects. You know,
Sure.
they're going to fulfill me, like, because, you know, I need to start thinking of life outside of piercing, because I can't do this forever.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
You know?
Yeah, sure.
You know, so I like to, you know, and that's where like fuck up nights, you know, that's where part of that came, is like, you know, I know a big part of me wants to work with community, and I want
Yeah.
to be able to cultivate a lot of these relationships, you know, that way once I finally get to the point where it's time to slow down, like I have this other thing that's going to help me fulfill purpose.
Well,
and
it seems like you're pretty integrated in the whole community, so you have a launching pad already set for you. You know.
it's been part of, like I said, it's just a part of that organic process, you know. Like
Yeah,
That's cool.
this is where I'm supposed to be. It's what I'm supposed to be doing. All these people that are coming into my life, I accept it for what it is. Like if you're not here, that's for whatever reason or another, you know. But if you're here, we're going to share space. We're going to talk. We're going to share energy. We're going to have a great fucking time doing it, you know, and
Yeah.
learn other things.
Oh yeah.
And then as a piercer, do you I think for us that have been in the industry, whatever industry you're in for longer than 5 or 10 years, 15 years, I think it's almost like we should be sharing our education, or we should be educating, I should say, for the people that come after us. Do you have any, I don't know, I don't want to say courses, because it seems like you teach as it comes to the right person. Do you feel like your next level of you is to teach the next generation?
I've already had that role. I've worked as an educator in our industry.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah, I had a job at one point. Like I said, when I had 4 jobs, like 3 of them were
Oh,
legal.
shit.
You know,
Uh-huh,
the
yeah,
other
yeah.
job I was working I was working for a company called Health Educators,
wow.
and I was teaching bloodborne pathogens and infection control,
Okay,
and
okay.
like going in and like teaching a lot of different things, like, you know. So I've already had that role. I've carried on that, and you know, and after that, I was very, very available to any piercer that wanted questions. Like my phone was open 24/7. Like, you shoot me a message, like, let's talk about what's going on. You
That's
know?
cool, not being a gatekeeper.
Gatekeeper.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
well,
shit.
I want to see people succeed. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
like, you know, and I want to see this industry grow. And the only way this industry grows is by sharing knowledge and getting everybody up to the same speed.
Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure.
So I've worked that role where I've also been an educator in my industry, but I like to look outside of that. You know, I think, you know, like I said, a lot of it's just my community. Community is important. You know, like without them, we don't really have much. You know, and I want to cultivate the right community for myself when it's time for me to finally hang up and be like, you
Right
know,
on.
we're done. Yeah.
I had a friend who and I guess I had never thought about this, but of course, like, there's a bunch of specialists, I'm sure, in your industry. And I had a friend who flew to God knows where. It was like the Midwest somewhere, because she started doing genital piercings. And she said that this particular person was the best, so she flew out there. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that you know by name that are.
That probably would have been Elaine Angel.
See, I don't even
I
remember.
remember you showing me that
Remember?
though.
And
I
I was
remember
like-
you talking about
I was
it.
like, I'm gonna go after she gets she gets taught.
I remember
Because
that.
that's like so amazing to me. But again, I'm not in the industry, so I had no idea. But of course, there's experts like that, right, in your industry.
Yeah.
That are niched down to a certain niche of a type of piercing.
And
And
she flew to her.
Yeah,
apparently.
that probably would have been. I you know, if I'm wrong, forgive me, but you know, there's a great possibility that I've been Elaine Angel. Elaine's a pioneer in the industry. She was.
Yeah.
She was one of the first female piercers who actually did a lot in the industry. You know, there were some before her, like Rayanne, Guyena, Michaela, people like that. But Elaine was one of those people that really pushed and advocated. And she's created this specialty where she lives in Mexico and she comes to the U.S. a couple of times a year and schedule these guest spots. And like
Yeah.
by the time she announces it, by the time she gets here, she has a week full of nothing but like nipple and like genital piercings, and that's all she does.
I remember you telling me about that because she does it a certain way where it doesn't like mess up
And
like the
I don't-
feeling and
exactly.
everything.
That's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
she was telling me. But I remember her telling me like, "Oh, she only comes down, and I had to book this appointment forever ago, so maybe it probably was her." And
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, wow. And I was like, you don't do those? But again, I assumed because she was a great piercer that she just pierced everything. But I didn't know, like, okay, you have to take this class or or go learn from this pioneer. She told me she had been doing it for like 20, 30 years, something insane like that. I was like, wow.
Yeah, we
it's
actually
freaking crazy.
Elaine's actually a very dear friend. She's a
right
friend
on.
of mine. Yeah, she did a guest spot at our studio years ago, so I got to witness how this happened. Like,
I'm
firsthand.
gonna go next time she comes in.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it was super cool though. It was really awesome having like this person who's highly revered in the industry. Like, like she stayed at my house and like hung out with my dogs.
Oh, right
like,
on.
Yeah,
cool.
being able to share. Like I said, that's one of the cool parts about the piercing industry is that as big as it is, like it's still really small when it comes to the people that are doing things in terms of like what many people consider the right way.
Yeah.
And you get to this point sometimes where like these people that you looked up to that were icons and they were like the big part of the industry, like they become your friends and like
That's so cool.
That's fucking cool as shit.
Yeah, I can definitely tell you like there was this moment that finally I was like, man, like things are really awesome. Like Elaine, she's known for that. People want to get pierced by her, but because she's not that accessible, there aren't many. She has this list of piercers throughout the country that she suggests, like this is where you go. These are people that I can tell you can get these procedures done safely.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and we're one of like 2 studios in all of Texas that she like.
Oh,
she
that's
will
huge.
send people to.
Oh, that's big.
Yeah, and for me, like that was one of those moments where I was like, oh,
I made
man,
it.
this is
That
cool.
was an accomplishment in itself, I imagine, right?
Yeah, well, and like I said, I've done I've achieved more than I ever thought I would in my life at this point,
Right on.
But I years before that, I actually got to work with Elaine. I served on the board of directors for the Association of Professional Piercers.
Oh, shoot.
So I got to work with her on that aspect as a board member. So we kind of had a little bit of a relationship, but over the years, like we've always kept in touch, and it was it's cool. Like I said, being able to have these people who
It's so crazy.
yeah,
that's fucking
It's so
cool.
crazy because this is, in Ventura and in California, and like we're in Texas, and it's the same. It's the person.
Yeah,
It's
it's
crazy.
a small world at the end of the day. It's really, especially with
what's
social
really
media now.
good-
It's a small
yeah.
world.
With the experts, I feel like the experts, there's very few.
yeah.
We're gonna have to
There
start
we-
wrapping up right now. but
Oh yeah.
this
You know,
conversation
okay,
has been
one more
fucking
question.
awesome. Hold on. I got one more thing.
Okay, you go, then I go.
I don't mean to sound gay, bro. but I gotta go shopping with you, bro. I need some tips. I need to step up my game.
Oh man, yeah. And I'll shout out my homie Javier at Divide and Conquer Denim and Leather. He's a local place. He makes custom guayaberas, denim jackets.
Oh,
and leather
remember?
jackets.
We saw him at. He was
Yeah,
at
he was
Fuck 'em
at
Nights.
Fuck 'em
Yeah,
Nights.
yeah. I
Yeah.
follow him. He's got a badass shop. You could watch him make it up from outside, right?
Yeah, I get a lot of my guayaberas through him, and like he's just good people. Like, it's cool being
Right
able
on.
to support like your homies. who-
Yeah.
and he just got featured in Texas Monthly. Like that dude's just killing it. I
Oh,
fucking
right
love
on.
that
We'll have
dude.
to go.
Yeah.
He does some crazy guayaberas, like shit that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then, okay, I know it's stupid now that you made an awesome joke, but I just literally had a question. The dimples, is that good or bad that people get them pierced? I've heard both.
It depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah.
I don't do them because they're a bitch to deal with.
Yeah.
They're constantly swelling, not swelling constantly. So you're constantly having to switch jewelry out. Sometimes, because of the placement of where they're at, like you can't see like glance through there. And sometimes like you have this piercing that's just constantly leaking and shit.
I've heard
like,
about that. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I never knew that, but I guess if you put, and I'm sure I'm not saying this right, but if you don't put them in the same place, in the right place, they're constantly leaking your salivatory
It
glands.
can
or-
happen, yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
that's
You
crazy.
see so many people with them. I never
Yeah,
knew
for
that
a
was an
while,
issue.
I don't see them as much anymore.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because there aren't a lot of people that do them. Like I said, I
You won't do them?
No, they're
I feel
just
like they're not worth the.
yeah. Like I said, a lot of people. It's a commitment, and if people aren't
Yeah.
willing to take that commitment on, like, nah, I'm not gonna do it.
Oh, right on.
I didn't even know that shit. That's news to me.
I know. I had read about it somewhere because I thought about it,
Yeah,
but and then I was like,
it's not common, but they're definitely known. They can be problematic. They can be finicky.
yeah.
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 This
it's a
conversation been fucking awesome though. It went deeper than what I expected. Especially like the spiritual stuff and all that. It's been fucking cool.
Your West got questions, DMT.
Yeah, but
So-
but a lot of that. That's helped guide me through my business. You
Yeah.
know,
Right
like
on.
it's part of who I am. And it's helped me develop my business into what it is.
No, I fucking loved it. Your energy, everything is fucking cool. I fucking enjoyed it. It was cool.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on.
And,
This has been awesome.
If you want to tell everybody where they can find you at again.
At Piercer Miro on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay.
From Dandyland.
Yeah.
And Dandyland's the perfect fucking name for this guy right here. If you see him, it's a perfect fucking name.
You're like, oh, he made that name up perfectly for him.
it
Remember?
like fits like fucking.
He's super fancy. He's a fancy muffin. Yeah.
All right, everybody. So this is it for today. We'll talk to you guys next
Thanks again,
time.
Miro, for coming by.
Yeah, thank you,
and-
Miro. We appreciate it, man.
No, thank you for having me. This has been fun.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll see you guys at the next one.
All right, peace out, guys.
Thank you.